What is up, guys? Stark here. I am back for another Fate video, and in today's video we are going to be taking a look at the new 5-star writer Europa. So Europa was an interesting character just by the fact that she wasn't actually announced for the banner that she debuted in on JP. So that was a little interesting. I guess there was a little bit of doubt whether or not she would be coming out in Lost Belt 5 or not. But her profile was in the game and you could get her on the loading screen and stuff like that. So it seemed pretty clear that they were going to just put her on the Part 2 banner, which is exactly what happened. So now Europa is officially released, officially available for the game, and as such we will officially do our character spotlight for her. So yeah, to start off with, Europa is not a limited time 5-star character, so you don't really have to go out of your way to pull for her, unless, of course, like you really want to use her. But odds are you're not really going to need her for pretty much any situation out there. So unless you're just going to pull for the sake of pulling, or in case you like her as a character, then probably not really the character you want to go for. And odds are you might end up getting her just by pulling for other characters at some point in time in the future. She is also available as one of the free servants that you can get with your 5-star ticket, which we'll be getting in a couple months later next year. So that being said, though, we're just going to go ahead and take a look at her stats as a whole and just talk about her a little bit as a character. So as I said, Europa is a 5-star writer, which is it was pretty interesting that they did release 2 5-star characters at the same time. So I guess it's not that much of a surprise that they did release it. But 5-star writers are few and far between. There aren't that many of them out in the game. So you know, you might actually be in a need of a 5-star writer, and you know, if that's the case, then by all means pull for her. She's not really the worst character in the world. She's not the best character in the world either. But if you ask me, if you're going to pull for her, you might as well just pull for Achilles. I think he's a better option to go for. Anyway, though, let's go ahead and take a look at her stats. At level 90, she will have 12,571 HP and 11,737 attack, ranking her 94th overall in HP and 31st overall in attack. Her star absorption is 205, her star generation is 8.9%, and her noble phantasm generation on her attacks is 0.58, and on defense it is 3%. So all in all, Europa is a pretty balanced character, if you ask me. Definitely a good option for writers if you don't have a 5-star writer, but there are just better options out there. So for like existing players or players that have multiple 5-star writers, you're probably not going to find yourself in a situation where you want to opt to use Europa over somebody else. But she's still not a bad choice to go for, and she does have an AoE Noble Phantasm as well, which is definitely going to be very helpful for like farming and stuff like that. So her first skill is going to apply Invincible to herself for 3 times, as well as increasing her own debuff resistance for 3 times as well. So this will be a 50 to 100% increase for 3 times for your debuff resistance, which is really nice. The really good thing about this skill is that it is not turn-based, it is time-based. So theoretically that you could have this active until you use it again the next instance. And then you can just, you know, reuse it whenever it runs out, and then you're good to go again. So that's really one of the really cool things about that. The other side is, though, if you get spammed with attacks, then you're not going to have any invincibility for yourself for however long it takes for your cooldown to run out. So it is kind of, you know, it goes both ways, but, you know, it does have some pretty good benefits there. Her second skill will increase her own arts card effectiveness for 3 turns, as well as her buster card effectiveness for 3 turns. This will also increase her own noble phantasm gauge. So yeah, right here, a really good skill. You get a 30% increase to your arts and buster card effectiveness. You also get a 30% increase to your noble phantasm gauge. So anytime a character has a battery, especially on a noble phantasm that is AoE, it's always going to be very helpful and definitely makes that character a lot more viable than someone who doesn't. And yeah, overall, just a really good skill in my opinion. But there's really not much to talk about. It's just, you know, increase your arts card effectiveness, buster card effectiveness, noble phantasm gauge. Pretty standard stuff right there. Her third and final skill is basically going to be one huge debuff to the enemy team with a 60% chance of applying charm to all enemies for 1 turn. You're also going to decrease the defense of all enemies as well as their crit rates for 3 turns. So you get a 30% decrease to defense and crit rates for all the enemies on a 7-turn charge time. Pretty good. The only real drawback here is the 60% chance to apply charm. If this was like 100%, that'd be insanely good, really. But it's not. so odds are it's not going to work when you need it to work. You know, it's a coin toss, basically. A little bit better than a coin toss. So, unfortunately, you don't get much value out of the skill. As for her passives, she has pretty standard passives. She has the magic resistance, reducing or increasing debuff resistance by 15%. Writing A, increasing your quick card effectiveness, and then you also do have the damage plus 150 to yourself. So yeah, all in all, I'm gonna give her 4 stars in her skills. There's not a lot wrong with her kit of skills, outside of the charm chance, but it is just kind of a generic set of skills, and the invincibility could be used up multiple times on the first turn, and then you have to wait a little bit in order to use it again. So she did lose a few points there, but overall I don't think it's a terrible kit of skills to have. Moving on to take a look at her command card deck and her Noble Phantasm. She has 1 quick, 2 arts, 2 busters, and the hit counts are going to be 3 on the quick, 3 on the arts, 1 on the buster, and 5 on her extra attack. So it's definitely geared towards her second skill with the arts and buster increase there, which is really nice. Sometimes you get characters that have an increase to like your buster card effectiveness, but they only have 1 buster card, so they can't really make, you know, good use out of that. As for her Noble Phantasm, it's going to deal damage to all enemies, also increasing her own defense by 50% for 1 turn. And then on the overcharge effect, it will increase her own buster card effectiveness. So pretty nice Noble Phantasm, does AoE damage, so you could potentially get wave clears out of it. You do get a pretty sizable increase to your defense as well, with that 50% increase, which is really nice, going to help keep her alive. And then the overcharge will give you that buster card effectiveness increase, which will definitely help with, you know, buster attacks and stuff like that, which is kind of where she's leaning. So yeah, overall, really solid Noble Phantasm. So overall, for her damage capabilities, I am going to give her 4 stars. She got a pretty good amount of damage that she can deal. Very buster-oriented, heavy servant, so if you bring in other buster support servants, you can just up that damage a little bit more. She doesn't have any flat attack increase, though, so, you know, definitely want to help with bringing in something that could do that. But overall, she does a pretty good job at dealing some pretty good damage. As far as her critical ability goes, I'm only going to give her 2.5 stars, and the only reason for this is because she's a writer, so she has naturally high absorption rates. But she doesn't have any skills for crits at all, so I really couldn't do anything else other than to just give her like average at best. And that might be a little bit high, honestly, because she doesn't really do anything with crits. But she does have pretty good stats for crits, so, you know, do have to bump her stats up just a little bit just because of that. And then for her Noble Phantasm, I am going to give her 4 stars as well. It's a pretty good Noble Phantasm. It's pretty basic. And she does have an MP battery as well to help a little bit with getting her Noble Phantasm filled. Her stats are a little bit lower though, with 0.58 on the generation. But outside of that, she does have the 2 arts cards. She does have an arts increase. So it shouldn't be too difficult to get her Noble Phantasm up and running. But you could struggle a little bit if your battery is on cooldown, or if you use the battery to, you know, use Noble Phantasm the first time. You might struggle a little bit in getting it up a second time. And then for her survivability, I am going to give her 5 stars. Her survivability is just really good. She has that first skill, which is fantastic. Being able to have the invincibility not run out could be very helpful in keeping her alive. At the same time, like I did say, it could potentially get stacked as well, and you lose it real fast. But even outside of that, she does have pretty much invincibility to debuffs. Her third skill is going to debuff the enemy team, and if you do get that charm to go off, then it'll be even harder for her to get hit. And then on top of that, you do have your Noble Phantasm with a huge 50% increase to your defense. So all in all, it's just going to be very, very difficult for Europa to be killed as long as you are playing it correctly. And then for support, I am going to give her 3 stars. She really isn't that much of a support character, but her third skill does lean heavily into the support territory. So you could definitely get some good support out of that. But, you know, all in all, really not the best support character out there, but she does have a little bit to help support her team. And that will give her overall ranking a 3.8 out of 5. So yeah, she's kind of just in the middle of the pack there. Not the best character in the world, but definitely not the worst character in the world. I think a lot of people overlook her just because she's limited, or not limited, so she could just get her at any point in time. And there are definitely better options. But, you know, if you are in need of a 5-star writer, maybe you want to consider pulling for her. And then even if you don't get her and you get Achilles instead, still a really good, you know, backup plan there. So, yeah, that's my review. I'm going to be pulling for her myself on stream later today. So if you guys are watching this video as it's released, then yeah, definitely check me out on stream in a couple hours. You guys will get those notifications for that. I will be pulling for her, and that will be tomorrow's 25 Days of Fate video. So even if you don't make the stream, you guys will still be able to check it out later on tomorrow. But for now, that is the end of the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I do have the links below to my Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Discord. So feel free to check those out, and I'll see you guys next time.